John, let me start with you, because obviously you're someone who's very important to the Tory party. You've got the big bucks for them. Do you still view the Tories as a low-tax party, given those stats?
Yes, I absolutely do in principle. And of course, what we've got to do is recognise the challenges that have been there through obviously the pandemic, which has cost the country a huge amount of money, £450 billion. But in addition to which, now we've got the Ukraine war and we've got the energy crisis, which is partly due to the Ukraine war, but due to other things as well. So there are huge challenges there that are stopping them cutting taxes. But that said, I am critical of a lot of the ways that we managed the economy over the last 2 years, because the furlough scheme was over-generous, put a lot of money into people's pockets.
Exactly.
Most of the population, while some of the population was starved of money. So it should have been a totally different scheme that looked after the population fairly and across the board, and not put too much money in people's pockets. And what happened then was we got all this extra money sloshing around, and all the supply chain destocked as a result. And consequently, what we got then was a destocking of products availability and a lot of money chasing it. So that was always going to produce inflation.
Brendan Clark-Smith, are you going to be going to your constituents after this statement and saying, good news, we're cutting taxes? Because you're not really.
Well, I think we'd all like huge tax cuts, Dan. We want to see income tax as low as possible. We want to see people keep more of the money that they earn. But I think we've also got to be realistic. As John said, we spent $450 billion on the pandemic. Now, you can have a debate about what we should have spent and what we shouldn't have done. But the main thing was to protect jobs. And whilst it is difficult with the tax burden at various times, people have those jobs in the first place. But I think what we've got today is we've got some sensible tax cuts for people. 70% of people, 30 million, are going to benefit from that national insurance cut. So it's the ones earning more that will be paying more in that sense. The cut in fuel duty as well. So all of these things help, and we've set a path that we're going to be looking at income tax cuts in the future, which is where I think we should be heading. But of course, the situation at the moment is changing a lot. So we want to make sure that we're being responsible with this, Dan.
Stephen Timms, I mean, do you just feel like the world's been turned upside down when it's your party that seems to be propagating for lower taxes? What's happened?
Well, the Tory party certainly is not a low-tax party anymore. As you've repeatedly pointed out to us, we've got the tax burden. We're heading to a tax burden that's going to be the highest level for 75 years. And the reason that the Tory party has become a high-tax party is, as Rachel Reeves pointed out in the Commons today, because it's become a low-growth party. We've had very disappointing rates of economic growth throughout the last 12 years. And until we can fix that, until we can get back to the sort of rates of growth we were having before 2010, we're going to carry on being a high tax regime, because that's the only way they can pay for the bills that they're facing.
But Labour doesn't want to be a low tax party, does it?
We don't want to be a high tax. We don't want a high tax government. We want a successful economy that's growing in a healthy kind of lick, the sort of levels of growth that we had in the period up to 2010, which enabled us to keep the tax burden down.
Because John Caldwell,
the Tories have failed on that we've got these very high taxes heading so rapidly towards us at the moment.
OK, Stephen, I understand that. John Caldwell, I'm just wanting to talk to you about the politics of this, because you'll be thinking about whether you'll be donating to the Tories at the next election. And isn't the issue that there's actually not that much difference between Labour and the Tories when it comes to tax policy, which puts the Tories in a vulnerable position?
No, I don't think that's true. But let me just correct something. I'm not a big Tory donor. I donated once because of the threat of Corbyn and co. And so that's not a normal situation. Yes. Will I be thinking of donating in the future? It depends what sort of job they do. And I am dissatisfied with the way the Tories have run the economy in the last 2 years. There's so much more that could have been done better. I've been campaigning, as you know, for Caldwell Pandemic Recovery, trying to invest in real jobs for the future, real growth and renewable energy. And the Tories, for my money, have not done anywhere near enough of that. and it leaves the economy vulnerable. We need to invest in renewables and all environmental friendly practices.
Smith, isn't that the
That is
issue?
the
You
kind of
need
investment that we
donors
need.
like John. Oh, Stephen, yes, you come in.
I'm just going to agree with John. That is the kind of investment that we need, productive investment that can get the economy going again, get the economy growing. And we've just not seen the evidence in this statement of the kind of measures that can bring that change about.
Brendan Clark-Smith, you need more donations from John Caldwell, don't you? You've got to listen to what he's saying tonight.
Well, we need a growing economy, Dan, and we're the fastest growing economy in the G7 last year. It looks like we're on course again to achieve that this year. Of course, with Brexit, there's all the opportunities that we've got with that. The Chancellor did things like the super deduction to try and encourage businesses to actually come along to us as well. But I think in terms of letting people keep more of the money they've got as a low-tax party, I mean, people's allowance now, it's £12,500. We're bringing national insurance up to that too. When we came into government, it was actually half that. So in terms of being a low tax
Do
party,
you think this will be enough to impress your constituents?
Well, I think it's a start. I mean, this isn't a silver bullet that's going to solve every problem. We know the cost of living's gone up and we know it's going to...
There's no more tax cuts coming before the next election, right? That was made clear today.
Well, it's very difficult to predict things, Dan, as we've seen what's happening with the world at the moment, whether that's with energy, whether that's the price of Putin or so on that's going on there. Inflation's happening all over the world. It's about 7% in the United States at the moment as well. So we're dealing with the situation that's in front of us and we're trying to be pragmatic, really. But I think what the Chancellor actually set out today is the direction that we want to go in. We want that growth. We want that investment. We want entrepreneurs like John to be creating that wealth and those jobs because, you know, you don't tax your way into prosperity. We want to set people free. Okay. In that sense, and that's what we're trying to do.
OK, Brendan Clark-Smith, Conservative MP, thank you so much. Thank you, too, to the former Labour Minister, current Chair of the Work and Pension Select Committee, Stephen Timms. And thank you, too, to a one-time Conservative Party donor, but, of course, most famous as one of our most successful entrepreneurs, John Caldwell.